Yo, what up, guys? Dan Theory at Theory BFF. Welcome back to another great episode of Beerfield Fantasy Shots. Normally, you would see Hopper here, but you get me today. Woo! Yeah, so I'm here doing Top Shelf and Wells. I don't know how Hopper typically does it, but I'm going to do it kind of my own way, at least how I would probably do it if I did it. You're going to see this going forward, at least, at least until the seasons are done. I will be on Mondays. Hopper will be on Tuesdays for waivers. I will be back on Wednesdays for starts and six. Nick will continue his anything can happen Thursday. Hopper will be back on Friday for DFS, and Nick will be back on for his ins and outs Saturday. And then you get to see the live broadcast Sunday morning for the live Q&A. I got a new work schedule for the holiday season, so we had to kind of switch things around, which is why we're doing new YouTube. We're doing new people for the YouTube stuff, and then we're just releasing our episodes and recording them just very differently. So we're gonna move into Top Shelf because we love to talk people up before we burn them fucking down. So let's just jump right into it. I got two QBs here. You guys already know who they're gonna be from the same fucking game. It was an amazing game. Both Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson here. Wilson, 26 for 41, 452 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, 4 carries, 30 yards on the ground. Just an amazing game. This game was just really fun to watch back and forth. Wilson is in his second half form, like we've seen from him nearly every year he's been in the NFL. If you own Wilson, yay. If you need a quarterback, probably won't be able to get him now. But he's on his top 3 to top 5 path. But the biggest fucking news from this game, the biggest news in the NFL, at least for a fantasy, just for a fantasy standpoint, has been motherfucking Deshaun Watson. 19 for 30, 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, the 3 picks, 1 came at the last throw of the game. Also added 8 carries for 67 yards on the ground. This is your new Russell Wilson, folks. He has been fucking beasting. I've talked about him on my last Thursday episode for Anything Can Happen Thursday, where I went into my own thoughts of the dynasty outlook for the rookie quarterbacks, from this draft. I loved Watson. I didn't love him coming into this draft, but I love him going forward. They re-signed Hopkins. They re-signed for Dorowitz. This will get Will Fuller on at least 2 more years, not 3 on his rookie deal. And Fuller, which I'll get to here in a minute, has been beasting as well. Watson has been unbelievable. The touchdown regression will come. It will not be this good going forward, but it's just been amazing, folks. It's been so much fun to watch. But those are those two. Those are your 1 and 2. There was a big gap. Andy Dalton was down there. I'm not going to talk about a 20-point gap, though. These are your 2 main guys. Moving on to running back. So we got 5 here, top 5 in order. McCoy, Zeke, McKinnon, Miller, and Gordon. McCoy finally getting to his touchdown ways. 27 for 151 and a touchdown. Also added, like he's been doing all season long and through most of his career, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 22 yards. He is the entire Bills offense. And if you waited through those tough through those tough weeks to start the season, you're getting now rewarded, for that patience. And if you bottom, fuck, you're in good spots. The Bills look pretty good. Obviously, that defense is very good. It was a weird week last week, but they held their own shit for this week. Great job, McCoy. I guess this is kind of weird to say. Zeke, 33 for 150 and 2 touchdowns. Also caught 1 of his 2 targets for 4 yards. Zeke continuing his warpath until he maybe gets suspended. We're gonna hopefully find out at some point this week. Hopefully the next couple of days is when we're supposed to get the hearing, and we'll see what happens. I still think he'll serve a reduced sentence, or not sentence, excuse me, a reduced suspension just to, get this over with. He won't, and then hopefully not get the domestic dispute on his record. But we'll get more into that as news comes out throughout the week. We're moving on to Jerick McKinnon from the Vikings, my dude. 14 carries for 50 yards on the ground. Also added 6 for 72 in the air. He's the only guy on this list that didn't get a touchdown, but 122 total yards and 6 receptions and a half-point. PPR league's pretty fucking good for 3 best. He got back to being the lead back and the top back for the Vikings. It wasn't a good Murray showing this week, which again I'll get to here in a little bit, and also what I told you guys to do if you had him was to sit Murray. Hopefully you guys listened. Moving on to Lamar Miller, the dude, just like this Houston's team, who's going to be on here a lot, has started to finally take off. Been amazing. Miller, 21 for 54 and a touchdown, also caught all 3 of his targets and a touchdown. He's been a beast. He's when he doesn't have to be the main focal point of this offense, because now you have a quarterback that can sling the football around, it frees up the running game, and now we get to see that. Not pretty bad efficient wise, just shy over 2 yards per carry here, but he's getting their touchdowns. He's getting his, he's catching his passes, and he's getting you some more touchdowns through the air. And you can't complain when Houston's putting up almost 35 points a game over this stretch. Pretty fucking nuts, if you ask me. Moving on, last running back, Melvin Gordon, 14 for 132. Had an, I believe, 87-yard touchdown run to really start his day off. That was super early. Also caught one of his 2 targets for 7 yards. Didn't get involved in the passing game as much as I would have liked and would have liked to see, at least if for what he's been doing going forward here, or for the last few weeks here. But he gave you an extremely efficient day because of that run. And then he went 13 for 50 or 13 for 45 afterwards, I believe, which isn't great, but he got an 87-yard touchdown. You can't fucking complain. So the running backs. Moving on to wide receivers. 3 of these guys came from the same fucking game, as you can imagine, based on the quarterbacks we talked about, what game that is. Both Hopkins and Fuller, 1 and 3 on your 1 and 3 ranked on your receivers in our league of record, which is halfway in PPR league. Hopkins, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 224 and a score. That score came late in the 4th quarter to put Houston up for that time being on a 72-yard scamper. It was an amazing run, great blocking, fantastic patience by Hopkins. It's the guy finally got fed again. The last couple of weeks, you've been relying on those touchdowns, which is great, but he hadn't seen a lot of targets, and he wasn't getting a lot of receptions, and then you go into a very difficult place to win on a very difficult matchup, and you fucking torch it. Both of these guys just went off. It was fantastic. Hopkins, I own him in a lot of leagues. I believed in him this year when a lot of people didn't. It's been great. I deep dove. I felt comfortable about him after I deep dove, and I'm glad I was able to. A, I kept him in a keeper league, and B, I drafted him in a lot of my redrafts. One thing I wish I would have done is taken him in a dynasty league. Moving on, though, we'll move on to Will Fuller. He was number 3, 5 receptions on 8 targets for 125 and 2. The dude just catches fucking touchdowns. I believe it may have gone up since the stat, but at one point, 11 receptions, 7 of them were touchdowns. This makes Alan Hearns fucking blush when he pulled that shit off 2 years ago. This is unbelievable pace that he's on. It will go down, though. And if you have Will Fuller, move his ass. Like, it's been great. It's fantastic for standard leagues. It's fantastic for PPR leagues, even though you would like to see more receptions. But the targets are there. But this is unsustainable pace that he's on. This is a record-breaking pace that he's on. This is unbelievable. Move him if you can. Try to get a top prospect. Move him and another player to get a guy like Julio Jones or something like that who's struggling. Maybe. I mean, it's tough to say. Or if you don't want a receiver, maybe running back. But if you have Will Fuller, you're obviously going to be playing him every week because of the upside that you see. But I even posed the question on Twitter last night. Is who's the more dangerous receiver you got to cover? Is it Hopkins or Will Fuller? A lot of you guys will just go out and say Hopkins, but like Fuller has been fucking killing kids over the top since he's been back from his injury, and Watson has been hitting that shit like crazy. Boom, boom, boom. I know you don't want to let Hopkins beat you over the middle, but you can at least do the whole bend don't break type of defense here. I know we're gonna go after Hopkins before that, but man, Fuller just keeps getting it done. It's been a crazy ride to watch. This entire offense has been very fun to watch. Moving on to the next 2 receivers, Juju Smith was your second receiver, 7 receptions on 10 targets for 193 to score. When I did my guest spot with the guys from Motor Box with Ben, he asked me what are a couple predictions that you'll have for tonight's game, because we recorded right before Sunday night's game kicked off, and I said Juju would have a big game, and I said Marvin Jones would have a big game. Marvin Jones didn't score, so he didn't just make this list. I look for a decent gap between certain spots, and that'll kind of be where my cutoff is. A lot of receivers had good games this week. These were just the top ones. Then there was a little bit of a 5 or 6 point gap in a league record. But Juju having his breakout game. Hopefully he finds his bike. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm going to go rewatch the game here and just get a little more insight of what I saw before we recorded for tonight. But Juju, congrats, buddy. You fucking went off. You called people. You told people to start you off of Twitter. People were like, hey, man, you guys love me, but you ain't starting my ass. Well, if you started Juju, you got paid off. He's on my bench. But thankfully, I had Hopkins and Jack Doyle, who I'm just about to talk about, and I was okay in Baltimore's defense. But damn, man, I hope this shit keeps going. I kind of hope they move Bryant. I want this to be the Juju and Brown show. I think they play great together. I know Bryant's important to this offense because of the deep threat, but the guy's a cancer to the locker room and to the team at this point. But I'm not going to talk about Bryant anymore. Hopefully, Juju found his bike. Hopefully, whoever sold it can bring it back to him. If you're not following Juju, though, on Twitter, fucking do so. Team Juju, I believe, is this Twitter handle. Moving on to the last one, the third player from the Seahawks-Texans game is Paul Richardson. He's Will Fuller light, and he's still beasting it. 6 receptions on 7 targets for 105 and 2. He finally had more than 3 or 4 targets. Obviously going to have more than a couple receptions then. This is kind of his breakout game. He's kind of already had it, but I didn't see what the other, at least what the targets and receptions were for Tyler Lockett. But Paul Richardson, Russell Wilson looks for him throughout the entire game. And again, like Will Fuller, the dude just keeps fucking scoring. And like I said, like now he's starting to get those targets and receptions, which is what we want to see. So I love Paul Richardson moving forward. This Seattle offense is in mid-season mode. They're in that we're fucking grinding to the playoffs. We're gonna take this division, and then we're gonna try to take the NFC. So if you own a Seattle player, that's what they do. That's what this team does. This offense does every single year. It seems like it's that second half wave. It's that mid-season form, and they're trying to show it. Going to tight ends, we got 2 of them here. It was a really gross week for tight ends, like it's been all year. Obviously, you're going to get one from the Texans-Seahawks game. But we're going to move to the man crush, we got to pour back some 40s into the Fiend himself, Jack Doyle. 12 receptions on 14 targets for 121 and a score. This dude got fucking fed. All game, Brissett was looking this way. And the Bengals have a decent defense against tight ends. They were, I believe, top 10 against them, or something like that. It was a decent defense, but Doyle just went off. This isn't T.Y. and company. This is Jack Doyle and company. Since Doyle came back from his injury, he's been a top 5. He's been, I think, a top 6 or 7 play. This is going to propel him to probably top 5 during that span, if not top 3. But he finally had his game. He finally got his touchdown. We're a little round on him still because he wasn't doing this, throughout the season. But he's been banged up. The whole quarterback situation's been murky. Now with the rumors of T.Y. maybe being traded, this will open up the doors more for Jack Doyle. He is a top 6 or 5 tight end moving forward. If he's going to get fed like this for the 3rd week in a row, and this is the most he's had this season, and maybe even in his career, this is his team now. His receiving core at least. Moving on to Jimmy Graham, the last player on the shelf for this game, and somebody who was on the Wells for this. 4 receptions, 5 targets for 39 yards and 2 scores. He got going late. He caught, I believe Richardson caught I think Graham caught the last 2 touchdowns that finally put Seattle atop with like 30 seconds left. Graham got going really slow though. I don't think he had a target in the first half, to be honest. He seemed just wasn't there. But he got you touchdowns. He was your number 2 tight end for this week because of that. It was a gross week. I'll get to that here in a little bit, but he came back and got you, and hopefully he had a win. This was, like I said, the last player of this crazy game. There's not much else to say. It's Jimmy fucking Graham. This offense is clicking, and you want to be a part of that. Moving on to the Wells. These are players that that pooped themselves, that puked all over themselves, that did all three of it all over themselves. Like I did, just like for these guys, I just looked at super low scores from guys we expected to have big games. There's going to be probably players missing. These are just the ones that I highlighted. Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, Drew Brees. Winston was a fucking nightmare. 21 for 38, 210, 2 picks and a fumble, no touchdowns. This was a decent matchup. This is a Bucs offense that's supposed to be beasting their fucking asses off, and they've done nothing. They've had very quiet weeks. Winston's been able to put together decent weeks, but this one just fucking shit the bed everywhere. I had to play him again. I also had Hopkins and Jack Doyle. This is the same league that I had Juju on the bench. My bad, bro. It sucked. It's a good win when you win, with your quarterback who puts up 3 points, and that's what Winston did. And I know for a lot of you out there, you didn't get a win because of that, and that sucks. Dak Prescott, what we deemed probably the safest QB this season so far, 14 for 22, 143, no touchdown, no picks. This is a sloppy weather game, though. No one did really anything, and there's gonna be reasons why you see Dez and Witten on the same list for the same reasons. They didn't need Dak to get it done. This was a Zeke show. This is why Zeke was a part of the shelves. The shelves portion of this is because this was a Zeke game. This is what Dallas may ultimately want from Dak. No, Dak's not going to have games like this. Like, he'll have a lot better games, but this was a weather-controlled, offensive control. They had this game in hand for the majority of the game, type of game, and you didn't really need Prescott to do that. So unfortunately, he had shitty numbers. Obviously, no turnovers, which is great, but low numbers. Then lastly, Drew Brees, 23 for 28, 299, no picks, no touchdowns. Again, he didn't kill you. Obviously, that 1 yard you wish he would have had would have put him at 300. But either way, this was supposed to be wasn't a great matchup. But you're at home. You're in this playoff hunt, and you kept the Bears in the entire time. And big shout out to the Bears DST, big shout out to Hopper for putting them on the map, at least for fantasy wise. They didn't have a great day, but they kept Brees fucking in check for the most part. This was again more of a running back type of game. Both Ingram and Kamara had decent games. Ingram would have been a part of this list had he not had 3 fucking fumbles. I think he lost 2 of them. So let's not open the QBs. Moving on to the running backs. We have, and again, 5 here. Latavius Murray, Devonta Freeman, Carlos Hyde, Christian McCaffrey, and Deion Lewis. Both Murray and Lewis were more pickup-wise. Murray had the big game last week when he went 19 for 39, caught his own target for 8 yards. Again, I told you guys on the podcast to sit him. This was not a Murray matchup. The Browns have a decent run defense. When you suck for that bad and most of your picks suck, you're bound to find some decent people and some decent free agents. They have a lot of money to spend, and their defense is starting to show that finally. Like I said, just a bad game for Murray. This is more of a McKinnon type of game, which is why he was a part of the top shelves and not Murray. So hopefully bench Murray like we as a show told you to. Moving on to Devonta Freeman, 12 for 41. Also only caught 1 reception on 3 targets for 20 yards. I don't know what Atlanta's doing here. I don't know. Again, a decent matchup. The Jets are below average against running backs this season, but Freeman, like, he is your second best offensive player. I talked with this on Ben. We had more of our reaction. Outside of things, this is Ben from Moda Box last night, and it's. I don't know how you don't use your running backs more. I don't know how you don't use Julio Jones more. This has been like the biggest disappointment in fantasy land. It's been this entire Atlanta offense, and Freeman not normally on this list because he's so fucking consistent with his receiving ability and the fact that he gets all the goal line work, and he had a dud game, and it sucks. I played against him, which is okay, but it also sucked in general. Next guy I also played against in that same league was Carlos Hyde, 12 for 24, also got 4 passes on 9 targets for 22 yards. In a PPR league, he gave you a below average but passable flex game, even though he's probably a 1 or 2 RB. But in most leagues, especially standard, he only had 46 in total yards, and it's just not going to get it done. This is a guy now falling back down to earth. I'm starting to see a little more of that consistency. The great things we're seeing are, though, 9 targets again. But Matt Breida got the touchdown in the receiving game and almost had another one. And he was used a little bit more in that 4th quarter when The game was a little out of reach, but even at points where the Niners maybe saw a chance if they kept playing decent defense, which they did, it's you're going to see more Breida. I keep saying that. I've told you guys a few weeks ago to move Hyde if you can. I know it. The great 2 touchdown game last week. I don't think he'll. I think there's a chance he can be traded. I don't think he will though, unless there's breaking news during while I record this. I just don't see him having those consistent floor anymore. For PPR leagues, so he's still decent because of his game, because of his work in the passing game. Next is CMC. 4 rushes for 3 yards, but he caught his 5. He caught 5 of his 7 targets for 49. It's the type of games you're going to get. This is a better PPR game than anything else, but it's still not a great game. He can't get it done in the running game. The Bucs have a pretty bad and inconsistent defense. It's just like with Hyde, it's his work in the passing game, and it's just not getting it done if he doesn't score. Next is Deion Lewis. A lot like Murray, was a hot name for people to pick up from this last week, but he went 15 for 44 and caught his 2 targets for 10 yards. Shit, it's the Patriot backfield. You're gonna get games like these. That's why you don't trust them if they're not named James White. Moving on to receivers, it's gotten kind of long. Dez, we have 5 here. Wells, Bryant, Dez Bryant, Deshaun Jackson, Stephon Diggs, Nelson Aguilar, T.Y. Hilton. Dez was a product of a bad weathered game and just game script alone. He caught 4 of his 6 targets for 39 yards. He should be a little bit more consistent. Deshaun Jackson, again, product of just bad QB play and just a bad game overall. Caught only 3 of his 8 targets for 37 yards, no touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, I've been a Vikings fan for a long time. I'm from Minnesota. I've watched this team religiously for a long time, and I follow them obviously a lot. And Diggs, when he's not healthy, he just can't get it done. And again, the Browns the Browns pass defense, especially their secondary, is starting to kind of get it together. He got 4 of his 6 targets for 27 yards and also had 1 carry for -1 yards. Just wasn't his type of game. Shout out to Thielen though, he finally got a touchdown on the season. With the inconsistent Keenum, thankfully they have their bye week here and they can get shit together. But I get shit figured out on the offensive side to be a little more consistent. But Diggs needs to get healthy for him to be back in the top form. Nelson Aguilar, hot name the last 3 weeks. Bad game because he didn't get in the end zone. Got all 3 of his targets, 26 yards. Just like Jeffrey, if these guys don't score, they don't have great weeks. This is becoming too touchdown dependent. Nelson is the guy you picked up maybe off waivers, probably more so, drafted him late. I know Jeffrey was the guy that you drafted in the 4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, hopefully 4th, 5th round. And Jeffrey got bailed out with a touchdown. Both these guys aren't going to be super trusting week in and week out, where you got guys like Ertz and you got your running backs where Wentz just gets everyone involved. And if you get a game like San Francisco where you should have had a better game, but their defense showed up to be more than expected, you're going to have players that just give you duds. Lastly, T.Y. Hilton caught 2 of his 7 targets for 15 yards. I said it earlier, he's in the midst of trade rumors. I think the Colts are moving in a different direction. I think Chuck Pagano's going to get axed. I think Luck's not going to play this year. And move T.Y. when you can, I guess. I love T.Y.'s talent. I feel terrible for him. He's like Fitz during those shitty years with the Cardinals where it's not the player, it's the fucking system and the offense. And that's what you get here. There's not much else to say about that. Tight ends, we got 5 because shit weeks. I just highlighted some of the more hotter names here that had bad weeks. ASJ caught all 5 of his targets, so decent PPR for 28 yards. Like again, if he doesn't score, we're starting to see this now where the Jets are spreading the football around, and he's in a plethora of guys who can be 1 through 4 on the target totem for that game. Jason Witten, a lot like Dez Bryant, just a product of the game and game script, not a passing type of game. It's more running. Caught 3 of his 5 targets for 31 yards. It's been a bad week for tight ends. Most of them had very up and down, inconsistent. If your name's more than Doyle and Graham. O.J. Howard after his blowout game, caught both his targets for 16 yards. Offense again, no one did anything here. So nothing really to see there. Hunter Henry caught his 2 targets for 11 yards. I don't know what the Chargers are doing. And with Mike Williams back and starting to increase his snap count, his target count, um, less and less with Gates still there and with Williams now back, it makes red zone targets less. It makes over the middle work less for Henry, and you're going to get more games like this. Problem is, if he gets dropped, he's worth a decent pickup. You can't say in decent matchups because the Patriots on the year have been inconsistent. I know recently they've been better against tight ends, but it's the offense. Way too many mouths to feed, and Rivers just isn't getting it done. Next is Ed Dixon, caught 4 of his 5 targets for 24 yards. You're starting to have he just coming back down to earth. He's been kind of cooling off anyways as his Panthers offense has been inconsistent, but it looks like his days as a high-end streamer are already done here. He's a mid to low to mid-end streamer, just dependent on matchup. And with tight ends, I guess, being as bad as they are, it's not a terrible play, I guess. That's all I got today. Sorry this ran a lot longer than expected. I'm probably going to do a little less players for next time or talk a little bit less. Again, I'm Dan 30 at 3BFF. You can find me on Twitter. Show page at BeardfieldFF on Twitter. My co-host Nick Sparks at Nick Sparks with a Z, not an S. And then Chris Hopper at HopBFF with 2 P's. Follow them, like, subscribe, leave comments. I'll be back on at some point later tonight to do the news portion. All right, guys. Peace.